Que lo que mi gente, welcome back to another episode of Las Chicas del Barrio. You already
Period.
know the vibes. On this week's episode, guys, we decided to switch it up. Next week, we're going to talk about what's going on in the Capitol. Just because, like, honestly, I need a mental health day away from
Yeah.
that stupidity that has occurred.
Mm-hmm.
Just saying. So, we're going to talk about actually, like, childhood traumas.
Mm-hmm.
We could talk about if we want to things that we've experienced growing up, but I think one of the main things that we wanted to discuss is how important I think it is to communicate with one another about our childhood traumas, whether that be with a partner, with people that you meet, or like even like just making like an overall discussion and like not being ashamed of it, you know? I think that when you learn about people's childhood traumas, you get to actually learn a lot about them and the person, like the type of people that they are, compared to like when you're trying to figure people out. I guess you can tell like they're more closed off and things like that because they don't want to open up about the things that they've experienced.
Mm.
So we're just gonna get right into it. And I can honestly start that off with saying I have some childhood trauma that your girl is getting over with. Okay. I decided to actually break those barriers. I think between I want to say a transition from last year to this year where I started normalizing like talking about my trauma basically.
Mm-hmm.
It was like actually, believe it or not, the last within the last month, yeah, within the last month, I've had two separate conversations with people about their childhood trauma and have correlated it and expressed my childhood trauma
Mm-hmm.
or like other people's trauma too, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I could honestly say like those have been the best conversations that I've had with people with such in such a long time. Like it
Mm-hmm.
was so genuine, you know?
Yeah.
Like I met some people that their parents went through like drug addiction or they lost their parents at a young age or like domestic violence or like alcoholism, like all of that. And I think it was so cool to realize that, okay, I don't know if this happened to you, but when you were younger, were you kind of like didn't want to tell people like what was going on in your personal home life?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Bro, same. Like,
Honestly, I would get that a lot where
same.
like not only with the stuff I've been through, but I wouldn't even talk about my siblings like that. Like people are like, "Oh yeah, like I know you have brothers and sisters, but like we don't know their names. I've never seen them, blah blah." But that's just how private I was. But then
Yeah.
I think too, like growing up in a Hispanic household, it's always been like we can't tell people what we're going through. Like we have to be
Ooh.
perfect, we have to be
Mm.
silent, but then we could be all up in the cheesemate of the other families
Mm,
traumas or what they were
baby.
going through, you know?
Nati,
So it's
you
kind of
snatching
like,
edges today. Okay. Leaving
because
them
that's what
bald
I've
like
been liking.
Caillou. Mm-hmm.
I've been
Okay.
peeping that a lot lately
Yeah.
because, like I think it's important. And I feel like I was talking to my cousin, Bri Bri, so shout out Bri Bri. Um, like, I think everybody has their own trauma, whether it's
Yeah.
really severe or it's really something like mild. We have something that we've been through in life, you know? And if you're trying to heal from that, I don't think like healing is like from start to finish. I think healing's an ongoing process, you
Oof.
know?
Snaps. Yep.
Because we could always like you could be good one day and then the next day you could just have a really bad day. So from what and I've been like this past week I've been trying to journal more.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think it's just you need to express that because if you have a problem you can't try to solve the problem without acknowledging the problem. So if we're trying to
Oh,
fix our
amen.
trauma, we can't fix that if we don't really um first get to the problem, like the trauma of what it is, like acknowledge your trauma. Okay, step one, and let's move forward, you know?
Yes.
Because if you don't do that, it's kind of like, okay, we're not really fully understanding. So whenever we're going to get triggered easily, instead of maybe like, okay, if something's happening, instead of being triggered so easily, we're able to, um, what's that word? Direct how we're gonna
Okay.
respond, you know? Like
Yeah.
maybe before I would be out, but instead I'm like, let me take a deep breath, let me take 5 minutes. Okay, you know what, Brittany, this is actually something that triggered me because I went through this as a child, or during like
Yeah.
as a my upbringing, like I've seen my parents do this, so I'm not a fan of this, you know. And I think that's
Mm-hmm.
important, like letting people know, like not that you're coming at them, but like let people know, like, hey, this is a trigger for me because of my trauma, and like open it up,
Yes.
because you'd be shocked about how many people, in a sense, go through the same thing as you know, or can
Ooh,
relate,
girl.
you know.
And if even be like people so close to you that you never thought
Yes.
in a million years. Oh my
Mm-hmm.
God, girl. Literally, same. Like
Yeah.
honestly, and it's crazy. Okay, like I said, guys, I want to say like I'm an open book when it comes to like my social life or like anything that's not in reference to my immediate family. Like
Mm-hmm.
if it's my immediate family, I carry that shit like deep, 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 deep,
Mm-hmm.
way down inside of my soul. Like,
Mm-hmm.
cause like it's just because like I through all the flaws that my family has, I will always love them, like no matter what. Like
Yeah.
I don't care. Like I will literally die for all my relatives. I feel
Mm-hmm.
like I make that very clear to everyone, you know?
Yeah.
Though we do have our trauma,
Fault.
you know, or
Mm-hmm.
yeah, like big time faults actually.
Yeah.
And so I realized though, like, you know, growing up, you know, especially in the Hispanic community, that I would not say anything. So, you know, we all go to
Mm-hmm.
school, we're all seem like happy kids, all these things, life is dandy. But in reality, like, I feel like a lot of my friends were going through a lot of similar things that I was going through. And it's crazy that we were so close, but none of us would talk
Yeah.
about our trauma. And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, yo, that to me is crazy. You know, like, why is it that we create this stereotype
Mm-hmm.
that you're weak if you talk about what you're going through, or if you bring your family's business, that's shameful? Like I
Yeah.
don't think that's right actually, because I feel like when you explain what you're going through, you open the other person's eye to think, like to see life from your perspective, let's say, you
Yeah.
know.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you don't take that initiative, then you're going to think, okay, for example, you can see a person who is the happiest person in the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
And people think, oh, the happiest people, they don't have no life issues. Shit, I could take myself as an example.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone loves to say Brittany is the happiest person ever. She has no problems. She's doing good in life. Everything's going good for her. She has both her parents. Her parents aren't divorced. Da, da, da. The whole book. They don't fight. All this shit. And in my head, I'm like, what life are you like? How can you create that based off what you think that you see? You
Mm-hmm.
know, like,
Mm-hmm.
bro, I think the person who I relate to the most is my sister,
Mm-hmm.
because like we grew up and bro, we saw some shit and that shit was savage, you feel me? And like growing up, I didn't have friends, I want to say, where I could relate to that personal, you
Oh.
know. Like I had my
Mm.
sister because like we were going through it, you know.
Yeah.
And even now, like I can say like my sister's like literally my best friend, because like as much as I love all my friends and they're
Mm-hmm.
all amazing, my sister has been the person that knows we've both
Yeah.
been through the same trauma, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
it's more relatable, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not gonna say that my parents are horrible parents either, because they were a fucking amazing parents.
Mm-hmm.
But shit, all families go through shit, yo. Like
Amen.
no one trauma is better than the other, you know? Like
Mm-hmm.
these are things I think that definitely in our culture in like the 21st century, like even like I would love to go back to high school and just tell kids like, yo, like let's talk about what we're all going through, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Like let's take that time, because you holding it in, like people are going to think you're okay, but you're not, and you're going
Yeah.
through it. Like it's crazy. Like I remember like I would hate, oh my god, I would go through like sometimes where I was just so upset, but like I painted that face of happiness, because in my
Mm.
head I was like, you know what, you don't want to be negative, you know, you just need,
Yeah.
don't let that affect you. But like sometimes I was just so pissed and I wouldn't say nothing. And this is me, I'm not talking about just in middle school, I'm talking about like 12th grade, 11th grade, like 17,
About to be
18,
an adult.
19.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like in college, like me trying to like play it off like my stress is nothing, but like in reality, like yo, I was still going through things, you know. And like I said, it wasn't until like this year, well 2020 I guess, that I
Mm-hmm.
was like, yo, like I don't feel like there's anything to be ashamed of what you're going through, you
Mm-hmm.
know, because I know that my experience, I can help the next person who's going through the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't want to sit
Exactly.
here, I wouldn't want how I was feeling throughout that time period, I wouldn't want someone else to go through that because they're ashamed of what they're like what they're going through with their family,
Yeah.
you know.
Mm-hmm. I think that's also too you mentioned something before where it's like where we couldn't tell our traumas and stuff like that. In a sense, that's hypocritical, you know, because
Yeah.
we're here not wanting to share what we're going through. And I totally understand, you know, like some people have the evil eye for you, you know, like they don't. Some
Yep.
people are malicious, but um besides that point, it's kind of like hypocritical of us as Hispanic, well, growing up Hispanic, because that's the culture we grew up as,
Mm-hmm.
um, because we're here, we're going through it, but then we're not telling anybody because we need to be perfect. But the moment we hear that, oh, so and so's is going through this or so and so is going through that, we're here judging them like, oh my God, how could they do that? Oh my God, stupid. Like, duh, that's common sense.
Yeah.
Or, oh my God, like, I couldn't imagine. But we go home and close our doors and it's chaotic, you know? So
Yeah.
to me, it's just kind of like, how come it's so hypocritical within our culture? And then we grow up so envious of like, oh well they have this, so we're always trying to one up people, and it's like, whoa,
Yes.
like let's
It's
take a
either we
step
one
back.
up.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna say it's either it's the one up, or you know what, Hispanics tend to be cold hearted too,
Oh,
especially Central
amen.
Americans. Oh my
Mm,
God, cold hearted people. I think that they're very cold hearted when it
mm-hmm.
comes to things. So they think in their head this illusion comes in that you don't talk about the family problems because why are you stressing that? That's a sign of weakness. Like you
Mm-hmm.
being sad is a sign of weakness. You crying, oh no, that's weak. And
Yeah.
it's like no, that's not at all, actually. That's you
Mm-hmm.
dealing with something. Because in reality, if you don't deal with that, the next person you interact with, you can bring along that baggage in that
Mm-hmm.
relationship. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
not just talking about like a boyfriend girlfriend relationship. I'm talking about friendships. I'm
Yeah.
talking about companionship. I'm talking about like acquaintances. Like your aura, your energy that you're bringing to someone, you're introducing to someone. Like I can tell when I meet someone whether you're going to be negative or whether you're going to have a positive impact on my life.
Mm-hmm.
I have
Exactly.
friends that I love to death. I love them, love them, love them, but they have not dealt with their childhood trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that they haven't dealt with it. Does that make me love them less? No. But do they need to go and figure out how they're going to be better?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, shit, I'm still figuring out my childhood trauma.
Yeah.
So I don't
I
expect people to know.
mm-hmm. I think it's also too just growing up in the like first, second generation. Our parents come from a countries where and also with parents, so our grandparents or our great grandparents, um, you don't have time for this. Or, oh, like depression, that doesn't exist. Que es eso? You're dramatic, all this stuff. Um, so there's that point, but then there's also too where I feel like it's always been black and white. You're not happy
Oh,
because you don't have money. You don't you don't have a good husband because you're not a good wife. You don't clean the house well, or you're not able to bring kids into this world. And to me, that's why when I hear these things, and sometimes when I hear like my grandparents talk or my tias talk that are older, I'm just like, first of all, that's why y'all got some real bad baggage. Okay, I could
mm,
sit here and I
pinpoint.
see, you know,
Yeah.
therapy isn't just like, oh well, Dr. Estrada, she's going to be great. No, she may not be the one for you. You probably have to go through five
Exactly.
therapists before you could see or you fit with or you mesh with that person. But also too, therapy isn't just going to be a place where it's like a weekend. Like you're going to go through hard stuff. Why? Because they're going to make you realize what's going on in your core. This is why. And then like I think it
Yes.
just opens up an understanding that you didn't see before, because to all of us we could say like, "Ugh, I'm perfect, you know,
I
that was
wish.
them, you know, like
Yeah.
we are not perfect. First off, we
Yeah.
all have something we could continue to work on. But for me as a person, I've always like for example, I know how I am because of my parents, and then I look at my parents and their relationship as husband and wife and see where are their weaknesses and where are their
Oh,
strong points,
same.
and how am I as a relationship, what do I look for in a relationship, especially since I'm a woman. Am I looking for someone that's kind of like in a like as a mirror of my father, or do I want
Mm-hmm.
someone who's not a mirror of my father? Me as a partner, do I want to mirror my mother or do I not want to mirror my mother? And vice versa, when I'm looking for a partner, like, how are you most like your mom? How are you most like your dad? Is that negative or positive? What's something that they taught
Ooh.
you that's negative or
They not
positive?
ready for that
You know?
conversation,
You
sis.
feel me?
They
This is
not
why this
ready.
whole like, oh, you go to the bar? Bye. No, we're
Yeah.
talking about our traumas, baby, because it's important, you know, like
Yeah.
it's super important
I
because
think so.
I think it's important to, that's why I always say like you can't love people before you love yourself. And I'm not saying to love yourself because you're a perfect person, you have a perfect body and you make freaking $1 million a year. No, love yourself because you are broken, because you have pieces that you still need to
Oh my
fix,
God.
like
Not ready for this.
everything. Yeah, like,
Cheers.
it's true. Yeah, like love
Yeah.
yourself because there's no other person but you. And today it's not going to take away that I'm not being your Brittany, you know, like it's just tomorrow we're going to be that much stronger and that much better, you know, like it's um it's a beautiful thing to realize, you know, like I'm not perfect, but I'm this way, you know, and
Yeah.
I'm not the same person I was 5 years ago. I'm not the same person I was in high school or in junior high or in elementary school, you know, like I'm obviously growing. And by the time I'm 30, I hope to be that much more wiser. But
Yeah.
I'm like talking about traumas is so important because I feel like that also helps you not push people away, you know?
Facts.
Because when people do want to talk about it, it's kind of like, oh, like what? Like, I'm not, no, like it's not coming for you. It's a place where it's like, no, this is a safe zone. Like, let's talk about these things, you know? Like, even us two as friends, like, I'm like, on a daily basis, I think we kind of learn more of what we experience throughout our lives and our
Yeah.
childhood growing up, and we've known each other for how many years, like 5 6 years now. And I'm just like, damn girl, like I didn't know that. And you could probably say the same for me, like, and that's
Yeah.
not bad. I just think that, like you said, like holding I hold my family very sacred, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't let a lot of people in. But also too, if you were to come up to me and ask me a question like, oh Nati, so like what did you experience as a kid, I would let you know. If you had a specific question, like, okay, yeah, like let's talk about it, you know, I don't mind. But if I meet you, I'm not gonna be like, hey, my name's Natalia. This is what I've experienced. This is because I am today. And yeah, like, no, I'm not gonna do
The
that.
life story, no. But
Yeah.
if it's in a conversation in a general setting, it's like I think we have to be able to let down those barriers, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Don't feel like people are always coming for you, you
Yeah.
know? Because if you feel like that, then you're never going to have that conversation with people.
That's
And you
hence
know
a
what is
trauma.
yeah, period. Okay, and hence this weekend I literally went to like this whole bonfire thing that I got
Mm.
invited to my coworker or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and it was so much fun. And I literally met this guy, whatever, and it was like, yo, shout out to him. Like he was literally the dopest person I've met in a
Mm-hmm.
long time. Cause like, okay, guys, if you guys didn't know, I didn't mention this a lot. I didn't mention this in the last video, but I'm trying to put myself like I have a friend group obviously that I
Mm-hmm.
carry and I cherish very close to my heart, but I
Mm-hmm.
told myself that this year I want to put myself in uncomfortable situations by putting myself in settings where I don't know people, you know, and I
Mm-hmm.
have to go out and I have to make friends or make people and talk to people, you know.
Yeah.
And so fast forward, my coworker who I just met like a couple months ago or whatever, he invited me for like this bonfire thing for his birthday. And it was literally the dopest thing ever. Like I had so much fun. One.
Yeah.
Two, and I met a couple cool people, right? But like this one person, he literally was the dopest person ever. Like we ended up talking about like childhood traumas. Mind you, I just met this person and it
Yeah.
was like so like genuine, you
Yeah.
know? Like I think we can both agree that it was such a genuine conversation that
Mm-hmm.
it was like, wow, like I respect you even more and I just met you, you know? Like I
Mm-hmm.
have so much respect for you, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And it also showed why, because he also wants to get back to like the community and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, yo, like me too, you know? And we didn't have like similar upbringings,
Mm-hmm.
but it was like we have like this thing where we come from not the best household, but we have two options. Are we going to sit in our pity, or are we going to move up, and how are we going to bring our community up with us?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so shout out to him, because he literally, I was like, we both agreed that like literally we were supposed to meet like that night.
Yeah.
Like he
Mm-hmm.
was supposed to be like, and I was like, yo, honestly, he went to go, he's doing big things now. He like actually just moved to Oklahoma for like some training. So
Oh
shout out
wow.
to him. Yeah, but he'll be back or whatever.
Yeah.
And he's just like literally all around dope ass person, lit. And so but like in reality, like, can you imagine like just meeting people like that and just having like that genuine conversation where there's like no judgment, and it's like, you know what, damn,
Mm-hmm.
like you went through that, like I feel for you, like
Mm-hmm.
I'm here, like do you, like what can I do to help you,
Mm-hmm.
like instead of being quiet or holding that inside, because I feel like when you hold it inside, it makes it bigger, and you haven't dealt with that trauma, and it makes
Yeah.
it worse to have a conversation
Yes.
about it, because you're not dealing with it, you're just pushing it to the side.
Mm-hmm. Trauma in a sense, I think it's kind of like we have trauma when we're because of the family we're born into, because of the race we're born into, and
Yeah.
just as what happens through us throughout life, and how we deal with those things. And that's something too, because I feel like a lot of people don't stop and reflect on yourself. Like
Oh
self-reflection is so
yeah.
important. Um,
Very.
uh, it's I always think tell like I it's always funny seeing people who like take time to like join a group or join I don't know, just certain things, and you're starting to talk about these things and people are like, oh, like I didn't even realize that, like I never realized how this affected me. Or especially
Yeah.
like with like the older generations, like with my dad and uncles and aunts, it's like, no dude, like I see it in your face, but it's just you need to realize that. And it's also too like accept it and move on. Like, don't just sit there, like, oh, my life sucks, my life da 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 da
Yeah.
da,
It's
and
like you're
don't.
complaining, but you're not doing anything to find a solution for it, or you're not dealing
Yeah,
with it. Because you can
yeah.
talk about it, but like literally sitting there by yourself and like analyzing yourself, that's a
Mm-hmm.
whole different ball game. Let me tell
Mm-hmm.
you, because I've been trying to do that shit, and I'm like, damn, Brittany, golly, girl, like sitting down with yourself is like probably one of the hardest things. I think is that one of the hardest things you'll ever do,
Mm-hmm.
because you're really like, okay, bitch, you could lie to the whole world, but you can't lie to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta be honest with yourself. Like
Yeah.
that's the reality. And like I try to, like, I want to piggyback off what you said, how you try to mention to your dad about seeing a therapist.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I tried to mention that to my parents, and like they were like, no. And I was like, but
Yeah.
why? Like you're not even giving it no, because we don't have nothing to like you said, it's like a mental issue, or we
Yeah.
don't have anything to like go to see a therapist for.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, listen, baby, I can name a couple things. And sometimes I be naming them, and my sister just be like, girl, why you gotta put them out like that? Because and I'm like, but I'm not lying though, okay?
Yeah.
I'm like a therapist without the PhD at this
Oh,
point, okay?
amen. I feel that. I need to Google
But
to come up with a therapy
bro,
certificate real quick online, because
they
that's
really
definitely
need to.
me. Mm.
Yes, because like sometimes I'm like, listen, like you guys are like this because of this. This is why, or like because of this. Like y'all really don't see it, but third party right here. I'm seeing it. I've been seeing
Mm-hmm.
it for the past 28 years, honey, since
Yeah.
1994. Like, you know? And so I think that it stops the generation that you decide, I'm no longer going to carry this. Because I noticed
Mm-hmm.
too, it's not just with my parents, but it's like my grandparents, like you said,
Mm-hmm.
or like my grandparents' parents,
Yeah.
like like personally, I come from a line of alcoholics on both sides, right?
Mm.
Like heavy alcoholics.
Mm-hmm.
Um, well, on my dad, both sides. And then on my mom, like all of my grandma, all my grandma's like sisters, they all lost their husbands, so they've all
Mm.
had to raise their kids, so they don't know, there's no example of what a role of a man is. The
Oh,
woman
okay.
can do both, which is not bad, but sometimes like when you have a significant other, you cannot be the man's place,
Yeah.
because that
Girl.
intimidates them,
Yes. It gets
you know.
yes.
Like that's the reality. And don't get me wrong, yo, women that have to do both roles. Oh, my grandma, listen, my
Shout
grandma
out.
raised 5 kids on her
Mm-hmm.
own. Let me tell you, that is the realest G you'll ever meet. Okay, that lady raised 5 kids on her own, no help from nobody. And mind you, my mom's father, he had money. All his siblings stole all the money, kept it for themselves, thirsty ass bitches. Kept it for themselves and did not provide them with any money. And you know
Mm-mm.
what? My grandma did what she had to do, whether it was cutting the fucking banana trees, cutting the pineapples in Honduras, being a nurse, freaking cleaning houses or hotels. Like, yo, my grandma was a hustler, natural born. And this is why my grandma is 78 years old, living a beautiful life, traveling her life away, because she deserves it. She
Mm-hmm.
deserves it,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And I think that though my grandma was, like I said, an amazing person, she does not know what it's like to let a man lead, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you don't show that example to your kids are going to be the same way, because that's
Yes.
normalized for them. And that's
Mm-hmm.
also another trauma, because you haven't dealt, and I told my mama, you haven't dealt with the death of not having a father in your life. Though it's normalized to you, though she feels like she doesn't really, like, she knows that she has obviously a biological father, clearly
Mm-hmm.
that's
Yeah.
how she was made, but inside she doesn't know what it feels like to have like an actual like how
Mm-hmm.
I have my dad, you
Mm-hmm.
know.
Mm-hmm.
And so I told her, I was like, yo, like, you could see somebody, to help
Mm-hmm.
you. And she's like, no, why would I do that? And I'm like, okay, fine then, I'm not gonna mention anything, I'm just gonna stay quiet, but I'm just
Yeah.
letting you
Mm-hmm.
know.
Yeah. Girl.
Yeah.
I feel that energy.
Stop it right then and there. That's why we're
Mm-hmm.
saying normalizing it. Yo, we really need to normalize this so people can start dealing with it. Because the last thing you want to do is bringing your negativity and your trauma to the next person,
Mm.
Because, like, in reality, like, bro, I could honestly say me and Nat always have these
Oh, for
conversations
sure. Yeah.
all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, not seen me cry before. Okay, guys,
Yeah. Vice
like boo hoo
versa. Yeah.
crying. Yeah, you know what I'm saying. Like, and you know what? And never did it change her perspective of me. Vice versa.
Mm-mm.
I've never changed. That's never changed my perspective of her. And
Yeah.
honestly, I feel like that just made our relationship so much
Yeah.
better.
Mm-hmm. If anything, it let me know, like, it made me understand you a lot better. Like, not that I didn't
Yeah.
understand you before, but it's kind of like, oh shit, like, okay, Britt, like, and vice versa,
Mhm.
you know? Um, but I think that's helpful, because, and then it
Yeah.
opens up a door to like another conversation where it's like, damn, I'm not alone, like, not to say that we go through the same exact thing, but it's just like, down, girl, because like, it's heavy carrying this around. It really
Yeah.
is. And I don't care what anyone says. Like, it takes an effect on your body, on your mind, and your soul. And if you don't deal
Amen.
with
It
that,
does.
your how you said, your aura, your spirit, your your body, it's all gonna degrade. All. And this whole like perfecting, like you need the perfect life of making $1 million. No, first off, please get that out of your
Mhm.
head. Travel light, like seriously, like let go of that baggage that you have. And two, even though it sucks, um, that generational baggage, because from my
Yeah.
parents, from my both my parents, I have things that I carry. From my grandparents, I have things that I carry, and then also too from my cousins, from my tias, from my uncles, like I have a lot of shit that I carry. But at the end of the day, I need to realize that some of the stuff that I carry isn't meant for me. What's meant for me
Yeah.
is to know, okay, Nafi, this is how you are, and this is what you've been through. How can you be better? How are we
Yeah.
going to get rid of or not get rid of, but build better habits for you to like let go of the shit? You feel me? Because I do
Yep.
not want to be my parents' age and be like, no offense, but I don't want to be them. Like I love my
Yeah.
parents with all my heart, but I do not want to be them. Yeah, bros, just talk about your fucking trauma. Talk about it with us. Like, and too,
Yeah.
like I think it's overthinking too. It's like, oh, I'm gonna be judged, or oh well, I come off like as this, and it's like, girl, we all know everybody's family a little messed up in the head. Okay, like
Yeah,
it
for
is
real.
okay, honey bunches. Like,
Mhm.
and if they're not as messed up, girl, look at you. Like
For
it's
real.
not a comparison or
Yeah.
a game or that we're trying to win or we're one up everybody. Like, oh well, like my trauma's this. Oh well, I also have this trauma. Girl, you don't have to
Yeah.
have like all this stuff in the book. Like, it is okay.
Yeah, and it's okay to have that like a perfect family, you know, where you guys
Mm-hmm.
all have a humble, open, and trusting conversation with
Yeah.
each other, and that's beautiful. I think that's like the ultimate goal, because I realized too, it's like one out of every four people literally like don't have any trauma, and you know, like
Mm-hmm.
I think being able to mix that into a group full of people who are going through it, one opens that person's perspective to, yo,
Mm-hmm.
like this is really going on in real life, but two can show people that yes, there are normal people. There are people who literally don't argue, don't go through
Yeah.
verbal abuse, don't go through drug abuse, don't go through alcoholism, don't go through anything that you're going through, that literally just live a day by day life, you know? And so I just think that if you are that person and you haven't been through anything, you know, like it's okay. Don't feel bad because you haven't gone through it, you know. Just be there for the people who have gone through it and who
Mm-hmm.
need that support. That's why I think key word in all of this, support. We're here to
Yeah.
support one another. We're here to build bridges and make sure that we're there for one another, because obviously, like we always say, we live in a country that always wants to divide us by the color of our skin or our social class and things like that. Well, that's it. Like that's, there's no more. Like we're all going through something, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, we're all going through the pandemic.
Yeah.
This is taking an effect, is affecting everybody, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So let's take the time to just love one another, one, respect each other, and see what can we do to help each other, you know. Normalize having these conversations about the traumas that you've been through in your life, because that's the only way that we're going to be able to get forward, you know. And
Mm-hmm.
I think and I hope that one day my probably ultimate goal, which will be part of our nonprofit organization, hopefully once it gets really huge and around the world, is, you know, being able to go back to these schools and being able to like not just talk to the special ed kids because, oh, because they're bad, you know. No, like these are regular kids that have 4.0 GPAs that are going through things, you know. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's not just because they're acting out. No, these are kids that probably are acting really good in school, that are going through it, that have no one to talk to, but don't want to be single, don't want to be put separately because they're going through something, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So one day we're going to be able to live in a society where, you know what, we're going to be people from different classes, age groups, religions, cultures, everything mixed together. And we're gonna have a conversation about what did you go through growing up, you know?
Yeah.
Like that's always a thing. Like, and I think with all the conversations that I've had with people, it always for me at least, it's always been pinpointed back to childhood and
Mm-hmm.
growing up, you
Yeah.
know?
I think it just helps build like normalizing these conversations and making it part of your I get maybe everyday interactions. It builds community, it strengthens community, because I think having not only a partner, like a boyfriend girlfriend type thing, but all partnerships, all relationships you have, like friendship wise, coworker wise, or
Yeah.
with your own family, um, it's straight because you can't have it strengthens that communication, because you know how we go on like dates, or you could be dating this partner and they're like
Yeah.
all they want to talk about is just like dumb shit. There's no depth to it, so you need to be able to open that door, and it creates really cool conversations. Honestly, like I've
Yeah.
had some wonderful conversations about this, and at the same time too, it helps me walk away with like, oh wow, like I never thought of this before. It's all about perspective
Yeah.
and having an open mind. So um yeah, just keep talking about them. And not to say it's going to be easy. It's going to be for some people it could be hard. For some people it's going to be
Yeah.
uncomfortable. It's going to be um awkward. It's going to be, some people it could be easy, but I think what works for you, whether that's being with your friends or seeking out a therapist or writing stuff down. um like there's a lot of ways you could do it, but
Yeah.
I think it's helpful also, not only for other people but for you as well, because it helps you grow as a person. And just remember that you guys are dope. You're not, just what you've been through in life doesn't define who you are.
Yeah.
Like that's in the past. Like continue to grow and just want better and to prosper. So yeah, like 2021, we're talking about traumas, people.
And we're
Period.
going, you know what? And this is where it ends. The cycle ends with you, and now it's to move forward. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
No more reverse. We're just moving forward, and we're gonna continue to do great. because that's it. We've already had a worse year. Now we're just gonna do good, guys. So
Yeah.
you know what? We love you guys. Thanks for staying tuned
Love
as
you.
always. You guys are amazing. Stay tuned later this week. We're definitely gonna be talking about our new project called Project
Yes.
Amor. So stay tuned. We
Yeah.
love you guys so much, okay? So be
Love
safe.
you.
Stay tuned till next week. Bye.
Bye.